Gruesome Magazine.
Hello, once again, this is Doc Rotten, and this is, I just screwed everything up, we'll just go with it. This is Gruesome Magazine, where reviews are very latest streaming and video on-demand horror movies and genre adjacent. As we're going to do tonight, each week my co-host, the SLATTMAN and Christopher G. Moore, will take a look at various theatrical genre films. Tonight we're doing something a little bit on the sci-fi / superhero side. Oh, yes. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Oh, I'm excited. All right. Joining me tonight is my co-host, the SLATTMAN, Christopher Slattery. How you doing, sir?
Fantastic. How are you, Doc?
I am good. I'm a happy man after watching this movie. A little teary-eyed, but a happy man. Also joining us this week is award-winning filmmaker, Christopher G. Moore. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing well, although I would say there's a moment in this film that's very horror-oriented involving a face-off.
Oh, a face-off.
Oh,
That is-
gosh.
Oh,
Gosh. That's a Doc joke right there.
That I will say it's pretty gory for a PG-13. So I will say it does have it. And if it wasn't for alien blood, there's a whole fight scene that there's a lot of things get killed.
They got away with a lot.
They got away with a
this
lot for
movie.
PG-13.
it's much darker than you think.
Including an F word at one point. The first in the MCU.
Yes, there is an F-bomb. And then there's a little bit of a take on what's the kid's name that's next door to Andy with all his toys? Sid's toys. Make kind of a Marvel Universe adaptation of it. Oh, it's kind of gruesome in and of itself. And James Gunn slaughters an entire planet of animals to chagrin of a lot of people. Animal people, yes. Yeah, not to put a dour note on any of this. All right, what we're going to do is we're going to give you our first impression of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. That first impression will be spoiler-free, and then we're going to dive into discussion, which will be just full of spoilers. It's all spoilers. You can stick around for that because you want to know all about the spoilers. And then we'll wrap things up with our score 1 to 5 and our favorite scene, and that'll be fun. And of course, we hope you enjoy not only this review but many others that we have on the site. And if you do, please hit the like, subscribe, and share with a friend buttons. Each click will help us find more movie fans just like you. See?
Do it.
All right. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. 2023, Marvel Studios in theaters beginning May 5th, 2023. Written and directed by James Gunn. The cast includes, but is not limited to, Chris Pratt, Bradley Cooper, Klementieff, I mispronounced that, Dave Bautista, Karen Gillan, Vin Diesel, Chukwudi, Iwuji, Sean Gunn, Will Poulter, Elizabeth Debicki, Sylvester Stallone, Nathan Fillion, Jennifer Holland, and Maria Bakalova. And there's 2 names on here that I know I just threw whatever name I wanted in that last one and just went for it. I don't know whose name that actually was, but
the last one should have been the easiest.
We're just gonna go with it. But I don't know why I don't have these listed, but there's 2 names on here I should have, and why am I forgetting?
Just say I am Groot, and they'll think that you're saying
I am Groot is here, and I am Groot is here. All right, we're just gonna give up. All right, next. Let's give our first impressions. SLATTMAN, you're up first. What was your first impression of this film?
I like to think of this movie as the Return of the Jedi of the Guardians films. It's not quite as strong as the other 2 in my opinion, but oh boy, is it still really freaking good, really freaking fun, and does it stick the landing? I was very emotional in 2 scenes, and one of which was the ending. Another one is spoiler McSpoilery.
Awesome.
And I was laughing, I was crying, I was enjoying myself. I was glued to the giant screen in the theater. I it was entertaining. It was great. There's a couple things that bother me, very small things, all things considered, but I think that there are things that didn't bother me in like Guardians 1 and 2, but I think this does a really good job of taking the Guardians trilogy and really making it into a trilogy and kind of tying everything up in a bow. So these actors can no longer be indebted to the mouse if they don't want to be.
Ooh, wow. They have free reign. Yeah. So the names that a couple of names I forgot. Zoe Saldana. Good God. I don't want to say these names. I don't know why I didn't include her name, but other ones. Michael Rooker makes an appearance again. Mm-hmm. That was kind of cool. Nick Santos is in this as well. Nico Santos, I guess I should say. Anyway, I'll shut up. Christopher G. Moore, sir, what was your first impression of Volume 3?
I love this, and I'm a huge fan of the Guardians films in general. I think they're some of my favorite parts of the MCU, and I think because when James Gunn started the first one, it's basically the Star Wars of the MCU. It's very space opera. It's got humor, and action and heart, and I think the third one amps up all three of those things 10 times. It's a fun film. It's got laughs. It's going to make you happy cry. It's going to make you sad cry. It's going to make you cheer. It's got it, and it has so many interesting elements to it. You know, even the environments and stuff. You have like a whole, without giving anything away, you have a whole planet. It's almost like made of flesh. There's all kinds of weird things, and there's also little tributes to other properties as well. And I think this is one of those few instances where the third entry really does a great job because it almost like makes it seem like it actually makes it seem that films have been less about Peter Quill and more about Rocket Raccoon. It's more about his sort of like journey as a character. And I think I will say, for those people who love animals, it may be a little bit triggering to some people. So just know that, because it does involve a past history of animal abuse and that kind of stuff. So do know that going into it. But it also, if you love dogs, the dog is one of the big heroes of it as well. So,
but there's a problem with that too. But we'll get into that later.
Well, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with any of this, to be honest. I think this is perfection. I think this is a perfect way for this group of Guardians to go out on their specific story arc. I was smiling from beginning to end, because it's just a fun time, you know. But it also has like such a big heart, you know. And I think James Gunn is one of the best really entertaining writers out there, because he has a real voice about things. You know, he's willing to go for the jugular when it comes to emotional type subjects, but at the same time, he doesn't mind throwing in a dirty joke as well.
Yeah,
or in essence, throwing an F word into an MCU film. So it really, I don't know. I can't say enough good things about it, because I think this has, I would say, one of the best, coolest action scenes in the MCU happens towards the end of this film. It's got some really great CGI special effects. I think when it comes to, and you have a whole group of characters, you see arcs on all these different characters. You can see how they've grown from the first film, and where they are sort of by the end, how they've been affected by this whole journey. And I think not many writers or directors can really pull that off, and James Gunn has done that perfectly. And so, yeah, I really love this film from beginning to end. I think it's a perfect way to sort of end this specific story arc when it comes to the Guardians that we know and love.
I agree. I had a blast with this, and there's a lot of this movie I like better than the previous ones. Not as a whole compared to maybe the first one, because the first one was so fresh at the time. But at the same time, there are elements in this that are resonate a little bit better, and now that we know the characters and there's, there are these, multiple film spreading arcs, if you include their appearances in other films as well. We know a lot about these characters, and we also know this the last one, at least as we know it. There's a tease, but we'll get to that later. I really appreciated the way they they focus on Rocket a lot, even though he's not really in the middle of the film. I mean, he is, but it's strange. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But you felt it. I mean, this is basically Rocket's film, and it is wonderful in that respect. There's a lot going on. We learn a lot what was teased. We see him become the Rocket I think we always wanted him to be, even though he was pretty damn close to it. We get to see a lot of other cool characters. We kind of wrap up, or at least for now, some of the relationships between many of the characters. Characters evolve and change, and this is probably the most rewarding experience outside of Endgame, I would say. Endgame was just a brilliant piece of work. It's in so many different ways, but in the scale that this one is, I think this one really nails it. The special effects are top notch. We've been complaining about a lot of special effects in Marvel movies. I don't think you see any blunders here. I think they're seamless. And you see things that are, that you can marvel at. You see things that you can be kind of scared of. There's frightening elements of this. There's astonishing moments of this. There's amazing moments of this. There's sad. There's happy. It's a wide range. It kind of envelops a lot in its 2 hours and some odd minutes. 2 hours and 30 minutes.
Half.
Yeah, 2 hours and 30 minutes. It goes by so quick. At least it did for me. Yeah. So now we just need a Howard the Duck movie. That's all I'm saying. Let's get into some spoilers. Let's start off talking. Well, no, let's don't. I was going to say let's talk about the stingers, but let's leave that to the end because we got to build up to those. They're very much based on the movie itself, which is refreshing that we didn't get stingers that are so dependent on the rest of the Marvel universe, and they set up other things or just throw us a gag in there. And there's kind of an irony to the last stinger that personally inside of our podcast land that we'll talk about. But let's talk about Rocket. And a majority of the film is them racing to save Rocket's life, because we find out that the High Evolutionary, this new villain that gets introduced, was responsible for creating him. And there's a kill switch if somebody tries to get in there to save him, and which leads us on this journey. And of course, it exposes a lot of relationships between characters and whatnot. But with the backstory of Rocket, I want to hear what you guys thought of the backstory, which is told in flashbacks throughout the second act.
I thought it was brilliant. Brilliant, blah, blah, blah. Words are hard. I thought it was brilliantly done. On a quick aside, though, I think it's fascinating that in like the 10 years that we've had Guardians movies, that Rocket has never gotten hurt enough to need medical attention.
Well, he's always been healed cosmically.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Sure.
But
like in the first one, or
yeah, but it's not a complaint. It's just fascinating, because if you go back and rewatch it, he's never been mortally injured. So so yeah, the thing that really works for me is really the performances of the other animals, right?
Oh wow, yes.
That that really solidifies Rocket's backstory for me, because he's always, I feel like, always wanted, like even from the first movie, always wanted a family, always wanted a group to call his own. He was always a loner. He had Groot with him, but they were just basically a mercenary, like, buddy, or duo, and that really solidifies, and his backstory is with the tragedy in it, really solidifies who he is as a character and why he's done what he's done over the last couple of movies. And like Christopher mentioned, I don't remember if he mentioned after we started recording or before we started recording, but he mentioned that it kind of paints the backstory, kind of paints these movies more as Rocket's trilogy to an extent, as opposed to being all about Peter. And it's
there's even a line that says this was your story all along.
Yeah, and it's really fitting with considering one of the Stingers, and I loved it. And I hope I can't wait to get Bradley Cooper back, because the character is the character is fully grown and now can just be even more of a badass.
Well, I mean, we know his character as being this snarky, asshole-ish type character, in the movies, and then you realize that he started out as sort of this innocent, kid who had these great friends and stuff, and he was having to deal with being, tested on, but he was very intelligent and that kind of thing, and so it's interesting seeing him where he came from and where he is now, and how he doesn't want to like make many attachments and stuff, because so it's really heart-wrenching and stuff. And so then you him just feeling like he's got these people he can be with that are just like his new family and stuff. And I think it's funny because I think that's been a little bit of the problems with some of the other MCU stuff. They really don't take a moment to pause and sort of show these other elements of the universe. And I think one of the great things I also love about this specific story, it's not them trying to save the universe. It's just this one maniacal type villain, and this small portion of the universe. And I think I wish we really get more to telling more stories like that. But yeah, and in the same way that, and also the flip side of him as well as the villain character, he has to sort of come to terms with himself, because like the whole movies, he refuses to call himself a raccoon, and he's sort of doing the same thing that he mentions of the bad guy, which you see in the trailer talking about. You don't want to perfect everything. You just want like it the way it is. And he's never really been very accepting of himself in the way he is until the very end. And that kind of and I think you have that along the lines with everybody, even like Drax, not accepting the fact that he's a doofus, but he also has a heart,
And Nebula too.
Nebula, you actually get to sort of see her change to where she's not like
arg the whole time.
Yeah. Or that she doesn't have some form of heart there, which she does. But everybody, is sort of like how it's beautiful when you look at the arc, and actually, well, I won't say it because it'd be spoiler, but there's also an element of Groot that we get to become part of that arc, because the whole bit of this movie is how what's her name, the green faced lady, Gamora, yeah.
Okay.
Her character, she's always making jokes about like, are they just making stuff up when you say I'm Groot? And I think there's a moment towards the end where we as an audience also have grown, because we're now part of that family. And I don't know about you guys, but I think I give me the emotions to think about it. But it's people are like, oh, it's just like awe in the audience, and that's what makes it such a great theater movie, is because we're all coming to that revelation ourselves. So, and I think that's the beautiful part of this. There's so many goofy elements of this, that are so overtly goofy, but you accept it because of within the realm of what they're doing. And by the way, there's a weird, creepy animal character called Lamb Shank that's actually voiced by James Gunn.
Oh, no.
If you remember that specific part. But
yeah, one of the best moments in the film with Rocket is when he stumbles across all the animal cages and he sees the nest of baby raccoons, and remembers when he was grabbed that one day, which we see at the very beginning of the film. And they're the damn cutest things, and and he grabs them all, and they're all holding on to him like you would see in the wild, and he recognizes that he is indeed a raccoon that everybody keeps calling him, and but he also realizes that there's a bigger purpose with freeing all the other animals, and that's the moment that really got me. I was like, this movie isn't getting me at all, and then the next thing I know, I was like wiping tears away, like damn it. And of course, we get the great line too with. I'm not P whatever the name is. I'm Rocket Raccoon. As we wanted that all along, right?
Well, yeah, and there's a lot of those type of pieces of dialogue that sort of get to you when they say those specific things. Mm-hmm. But yeah, and again, that's the whole him coming into sort of like the frame of mind of like, okay, I am this type of person, which also shows. He's ready to be this leader for this new, group of Guardians when it comes to their next realm of stories.
Yeah, I like how it ends with the characters all kind of taking responsibility or, grabbing onto their arcs, if you will, at the end. Each character kind of, travels along for the next element of their journey. Like you said, Drax becomes basically a dad or a teacher to all these kids, which is great. And even the moment that he knows the language, like you said,
the Ewok language.
Yeah, the Ewok language. And then, even Gamora has found her new family in this new version of her with Sly Stallone and the crew there. And then Nebula is going to basically become the president of the nowhere, for lack of a better term. I really think that the one arc that really isn't as big, although there is an arc there, is actually Chris Pratt's character. His it's there, but for me it didn't have as much impact as the rest.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of one of the things that I have a slight issue with. And, maybe it just felt like it felt like if you look at the previous stuff, right? Especially like going from Guardians 2 to Infinity War Endgame to the Christmas special. I didn't really connect the dots of how he got to where he was at the very beginning of this movie. And he didn't really have much growth after that. He was just kind of, I don't know, there.
But it was, yeah. But I kind of, at the same time, I kind of like the idea that it's not his film.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was done on purpose, that it's the rest of the Guardians
film. But I think he does have growth because the whole movie he's trying to have puppy eyes for Gamora, and I think there has to be some level of acceptance there where he can't really change things, and then at the same time he also sort of like he's always been a little bit selfish to some degree, throughout the movies, and I think he makes that kind of element. He actually becomes what his own mentor and own father type figure was in the first film. First two films,
I don't disagree that he has an arc.
It's not as big, but I think
my problem is it doesn't have an impact. I don't think it's weak, but
if everything had an impact, I think it would be too much for.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I think it was on purpose, so the other characters could shine.
To me, I don't think that's a weakness. That's just storytelling. If you had to do, you can't. It's like we need to do a major arc for everybody in Lord of the Rings. It's not everybody's going to be able to do what. Yeah, everybody has their part in it, And I think the whole thing is it's more a Rocket story than it is about Quill, and it's him sort of also being acceptance that like I don't need to be, maybe I need to go back to my past and be accepting of his past. And actually, if the second film there, I think it might be in the stinger or one of the scenes. His grandfather actually is in the second film. If you go back and look, they're in a car.
Oh, when the things are going through the I think the Guardians could succeed without Star-Lord.
Oh, 100%. I don't know if it would be as good
anymore.
without James Gunn, though.
It's going to be interesting.
James Gunn's style kind of makes the Guardians movies for me.
Yeah, I'm not sure how they're going to do it, but
I think you'd have to find somebody that has like a similar. As much as I like Taika Waititi, I'm not sure if I would give him it. But I think you have to find somebody who has like a whimsical way they tell. Like if Edgar Wright were to do it, I think he might be able to pull off sort of like that kind of type of storytelling. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think James Gunn is so specific in his sort of like the types of stories he tells, because he's like almost like a over the top, almost like a I hate to say Tim Burton-esque, but he has that kind of, he likes the side characters. He likes the griminess of certain situations. There's like almost like a morbid sense of humor about things. And also like, there's always underlying sex jokes. And so there's not a lot of filmmakers that can sort of combine all that stuff into an entertaining movie that doesn't seem forced.
Yeah, I will say though that I don't think it's impossible that James Gunn could come back to direct another movie, but probably not likely.
Yeah, it's not likely. Not in the immediate future. Let's put it that way.
Or if they just maybe if they paid him to write it and he just, But I think he's going to be too busy with DC. So I think it may be one of those things where it's going to feel. It's sort of like Pacific Rim, the first film directed by Del Toro and the crappy one directed by I don't care who, and it doesn't feel like the same thing, So I think we may have to sort of keep our expectations low.
Yeah, the end stinger promises that the legendary Star-Lord will return, and I don't really care. We don't know what that means either. I'm fine if Star-Lord doesn't return.
Well, I mean, Star-Lord has not always been Peter Quill in the comics. Star-Lord has been other characters, right? So
that's what some people say, that they think maybe because of Secret Wars we may see Star-Lord return, but it might be a totally different actor.
Okay, that sounds good. Let's talk about the villains real quick. Let's talk about the High Evolutionary, which I think is one of Marvel's better villains. A little childish.
He kind of defeats himself, actually.
Well, that happens often. But he's also he has a goal. He's sticking to it. It's not about. I mean, it kind of is about world domination in a way, but not in the way that you think.
He's a Dr. Evil of the MCU, basically.
Yep.
I mean, but I think again, at least we know what his. I think the MCU's always had villain problems. Mm-hmm. We can all admit to that. They've always had villain, and at least we know what this villain is about. Yep. There's really no him and Rahan about it. We know what he's about. Yep, we know very very singular in his, and even though his ideas are wacky, that's where his mind is. He really thinks he's perfecting everything,
which is straight out of the comics. But it is straight out of the comics. I mean, he's responsible for Down to Earth in the comics, and
So the thing is, I think people are looking at it's such a weird villain, but if people are complaining that movies aren't like the comics, then maybe you should go read the comics and realize that the ideas have always been there and kind of weird and wacky. And we have that here,
So that's funny because I actually haven't heard any criticism of the High Illusionary. Everyone's been praising it, from what I can tell.
This is the one they've been criticizing.
Yeah, this is the one I fall in the camp of criticizing the use of Adam Warlock. I don't know.
Okay. I know where you're coming from, because this is not the Adam Warlock that I've read and I wanted in this movie, but it is the Adam Warlock they wanted to put in this movie. But he's used in a way that feels like hindsight instead of purposefully.
Mhm.
There are some great moments with him, especially, this little call out with the finger, to a very famous painting. But they oversold the childlike element of him, which he did have at the beginning, but it was less childlike and more of an innocent adult. And they went straight out childlike, and that was, mommy and all this, and that was a bit strange. But he gets an arc. I mean, even he gets an arc, and he does grow. And at the end, I appreciated that, even though I didn't really. This isn't the Warlock I wanted.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% with everything you said. That's exactly how I feel. But they've done what they've done. I will accept that the MCU does not have to be exactly like the comics. I've been trying to be that way for, a better part of a decade now. And now that he's had an arc, I kind of want to see what they'll do with him next, because now that he's a part of the Guardians and he's through his I'm a villain phase, maybe he can become a very interesting version of Adam Warlock.
Well, he feels like he's the Drax version of Adam Warlock.
Kind of does. Yeah.
He's almost like the doofus, because he's still. I mean, I don't know how childlike they'll make him in the feature films, but he has that kind of. He's more of a childish person as opposed to just intellectually.
Well, if they do anything with the comics, he needs to be teaming up with Pip the Troll, who we saw at the end of the Eternals, and Gamora, and the three of them, and that could be a new Guardians movie.
Although I have noticed that people pointed out that the Groot at the end, in sort of credit sequence, is more looking like the Groot from the original comic, because it's like big ass and sturdy.
Which let's wrap things up with the stingers, because we kind of just announced it. The stinger, the end credit stinger, as opposed to the final stinger at the end of the movie, is Rocket taking lead of the new Guardians. What do we think of these new Guardians?
I love it.
Yeah,
I love that we know what we're getting ourselves into, and whether it's a one-shot special on Disney Plus for the next Guardians adventure, or another movie, or they end it right there. I don't care. I love it. If we get more of those characters, great. If we don't, I think it's a great bookend I think it's a great ending.
Now, I don't know if you guys realized too, the one child that they rescued that became a Guardian, who she was. She was also the one that was running the wheel.
Do you know? Oh, okay. She's the one that's running the wheel. Okay.
Yeah, she's Phyla Vell. In the comic, she's called just Phyla here, but she's Phyla Vell. She's kind of a cross between Quasar and Captain Marvel in the comics. So we'll see. She had in the comics, she is a daughter of Marvel, but obviously not here. But anyway, I'd like the team. I don't know. I want Warlock. I want the Warlock from the comics, but we'll live with this. And then the last one is Peter Quill goes back home and sees his grandfather and hangs out with him, I guess, for the remainder of his days, because I think he said he was approaching 90. And we get a stinger with him at the dinner table eating cereal, which I thought of Christopher, because he loves it when his superheroes eat cereal.
That was my first thought too.
I don't like it when they do it in Star Wars.
Yes.
World.
Yes, that's
Andor.
True. I still thought of you.
Oh, yeah. Although, did you notice the newspaper?
No, I didn't. What was it?
The newspaper headline says it mentions Kevin Bacon being
yes. Yeah.
beamed to a spaceship.
Yes. I thought that was hilarious. But what do you guys think of that stinger? I thought it was a little lame.
Don't care.
I didn't. I was like, I could have just went home.
I
didn't. There was really no point to it. And then I was like,
cute. But
and then I'm trying to read into it. It's like maybe the neighbor is a superhero or something. I don't know what was the point of that. It seemed like a waste of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
kind
it
of
would have
fun,
been better if they didn't put the mighty or the Star-Lord will return. If it was just there as the visual gag of the paper with the Kevin Bacon, and that was all it was.
I mean, unless they're like some people say they're trying to set up maybe those individual legendary Star-Lord type comic stories, but you know, unless it ties into Secret Wars or something. So I don't know. I don't know. I don't. I think I think he's okay as part of the Guardians, but I'm not really interested in watching any kind of Star-Lord movie unless it's somebody totally different. Then I'd be interested. I mean, I don't mind Chris Pratt as Star-Lord, but
well, he was really good in this. I mean,
he was good in the beginning,
except for the drunk version. I didn't care for the version at the beginning, but once he got over that, I was all about him. Let's before we wrap up, let's do one last thing. Marvel's been taking a lot of hits, you know, in fandom, and we won't say toxic fandom, but in fandom, you know, Marvel's been taking some hits. You know, either oversaturation or you know, what is it? Fatigue, superhero fatigue. What do we think about this film in that respect? Does this put Marvel back in the right position, or is it still the same old, same old?
I'll let Christopher G. Moore go first.
I mean, I feel like this is more what the MCU needs to make, because this doesn't, like, by the end of this, I wasn't concerned about like, oh, this is going to tie into this, so this is going to, you know what I mean? Right. I didn't really care so much. It was just a fun Guardian story that kind of wrapped up their specific stories within 3 movies. So I think in some ways, I feel like and because it had such an element of heart to it, and because I think the problem is they manufacture so many things after a while. It just feels like it's part of this bigger thing, and it's not individualistic in the stories it's trying to tell. So because it's so integrated, it kind of drains a lot of the energy from that, and then everything becomes very similar. You know what I mean? And if you try to do something different, then people get upset about it as well. But yeah, I don't think I think in some ways, I mean, hopefully people don't. I mean, I don't feel like this is part of that fatigue.
Okay.
I feel like it's because James Gunn really put a lot of his heart and soul into it. It shows.
It does.
And I feel like other films don't have that element of it, you know. Which I'd like to see more of those in MC movies in general. And I'm not sure if Marvel will learn from that.
I don't know. We'll find out. I think they're aware. I do believe they're aware. Slatman, what are your thoughts on this?
I will say that this is probably the highest, like, from a fan perspective, this is the highest regarded movie since Endgame, I think. And outside of Loki, it's probably the highest thought of thing since Endgame. Although there's been some other great stuff that's come out, right? But in terms of in terms of what we need, I think this proves that we need smaller scale stories. Nothing needs to be, you know, the universe is ending, the world is ending every single time.
No beams from the sky.
And it needs to, you know, and it needs to focus on characters more than focus on what makes Marvel great, and that's the characters, right?
And their arcs, yeah.
And their arcs.
We'll see if Marvels can do that. Marvels.
Unfortunately, even if this is very critically acclaimed and very well regarded from fans, I don't think it's doing the numbers that Marvel wants it to do. It's doing good, but it's not doing great.
No,
it's done really well overseas, though.
Yeah, it's going to have to have.
Other ones haven't.
It's going to have legs, which, to be honest, that's what all the Guardians have done. I mean, all the Guardians movies have had legs, and it may have the opportunity for it to do that. So
yeah,
and it's interesting that the 2 movies that in the recent few months are both Chris Pratt films that have been leading the way. So that's interesting.
Yeah, it took one Chris Pratt film to knock another Chris
Chris
Pratt
Pratt
film
film
off
off,
the
I
number
know.
one and domestically.
Isn't that strange?
Mushroom Kingdom,
Yeah,
here
there
we
you go.
come.
He's the man. You know, say what you want to him, but his future is secure. Let's go ahead and wrap
His
this up.
future has been secure since Jurassic World.
Well, that might be true too. Let's go ahead and wrap this up with our score 1 to 5 and our favorite scene. Slatman, sorry, you are up first.
I'm giving this a 4.25. So I keep going back and forth between a 4.25 and a 4.5. When I think about the things that I don't like, drunk Chris Pratt. I thought Act 1 was a little messy. Once they got to Flesh World, it really took off and was great, right?
I agree with that.
When I think about the things that, and Adam Warlock, when I think about the things I don't really like, I lean back towards 4.25. But when I think about the things that I love, and I'm not trying to steal scenes, but I'm just mentioning like random things. The final act, I really loved Cosmo in this. I loved Mantis riding the giant Rathtar lookalikes.
Yep, from the second film. Yep,
yeah.
Yep.
I loved Drax's stuff. I loved everything with Rocket Raccoon. And I have 2 favorite scenes. Oh, and High Illusionary is fantastic. When I think about that stuff, I go back to 4.5, even maybe up to 4.75. Like, I really like it. In fact, I love it.
The movie sticks the landing.
Yeah, it sticks the landing. It you think about the good stuff more than the bad stuff. Let's put it that way. Gosh, my favorite scene.
You can take 2.
I can take 2.
There's plenty.
I don't want. Okay, so the scene where Lila tells Rocket that he can come with them, but not yet. He still has a purpose.
Oh my God, yes.
That scene for having 2 CGI animals was so well acted, so well directed, and so heartbreaking.
Lila was the otter for those who don't know.
Yeah. And then my favorite, but I absolutely loved the hallway action scene where after they all get onto the High Illusionary ship and they have to fight through all of the goons to get to the in the hallway. I love that.
It's a Marvel hallway scene.
Yeah, it's a Disney hallway scene.
Yes. Yes. Daredevil, eat your heart out.
Oh, Daredevil ain't got nothing on that hallway scene.
Yeah, the only hallway scenes that rival it are probably the Star Wars ones.
Well, there you go. Yeah, there's a good hallway scene with recently. Christopher G. Moore, let us know your score and favorite scenes.
This gets a 5 out of 5 for me. I've really enjoyed the journey of the Guardians films. I think as a trilogy, they've hit it out of the park for me. And then maybe it's because I'm a Star Wars fan and it feels like the closest thing to Star Wars in the MCU. But and I think I think this third one takes you for such a, you have moments of hilarity and moments of emotion. You know, it's like it takes you on. It's definitely a roller coaster ride of emotions throughout, and I think that's a good thing. It's entertaining from beginning to end. As for favorite scenes, I'm going to piggyback on one of his. I'm going to say 2 scenes too. I'm going to piggyback on the hallway scene. As a filmmaker, it's done to like Beastie Boys, and the camera is like spinning around. It's all done in like one long shot. And as a filmmaker, I'm like, oh my God, how long did it take them to figure this crap out? Because, you know, it's like, and it's very violent. They're like stabbing things. There's like so many people get massacred in that.
I'm pretty sure Groot literally rips someone in half by growing trees into them.
And this whole film is very violent. There's like I don't know. I don't think it happens in that scene, but there's the one scene where the guy gets nailed to the wall, and he falls down while his legs still attached. It's like, oh God. Don't even get me started when they rip the evolutionary's face off.
Oh,
It's like, oh my God. I don't know. I was like, man, what was the rating on this? Even I was kind of questioning that, because that's very gruesome. That's the most gruesome things ever happen in the MCU. My other scene is going to be, and I guess maybe it's because I like the music scenes, but I have to say the final dance scene.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which I think I was getting emotional watching it, because they said it to I think it's Florence and the Machine, that song, which I don't know if you've seen online. They show the singer Florence and the Machine watching that scene in her home, and she's crying because they're usually, but it's such a beautiful scene. And there's that one when you have Drax who's like, dancing is for idiots, for stupid people, and when he sort of embraces the fact, okay, I'm an idiot, and I'll dance. I was like, oh, that's such a beautiful. So yeah, I don't know, something about that whole scene and again, I think that's definitely James Gunn. One of his strongest things is how he utilizes music. I know about you guys throughout the whole film, I'm like, what music is he going to use next?
Oh yeah, there was a great
and he
song.
utilizes to such great effect. And I think those two scenes really stood out to me with how they were utilized, either for just the action element or just for the emotional happy element, or I guess that's the Ewok celebration moments of this Return of the Jedi,
Yeah.
where you have kids saying "Juke Juke," they're speaking in Ewok.
Yeah, we even get a
James,
callback to an old song too. We get a replay, and it's great.
That's true. That's true. So yeah, those I could probably name a bunch of other scenes, but those are the two that really stood out to me that I keep thinking about when I think about the film.
Yeah, I was kind of like in Slatman's camp. I walked into this movie. I was really excited about it. I wanted to, I was worried about who was going to die and who was going to live, because I've been avoiding all kinds of spoilers, and I was sure that the body count was going to be high. And the first act was kind of like, oh no. But once we got past Drunk Quill, things picked up, and I was really happy. And from then on, the movie got me. And there's many moments that I'm just sold. And much like Slatman, by the time it's ending, it is so rewarding and so just such a fun film. There's a lot of action, a lot of emotion. So 4.5, leaning toward a 4.75 for me. No, 4.75. I really like this. I really like it. I got two favorite scenes. The emotional one is, I mentioned it earlier, and that's when Rocket, saves the little raccoons, and it's just, look at them little faces. Oh my God. It's just the way they were clutching on them, like they would in the wild. It was such wonderfully realized, and that about destroyed me emotionally. There's so many action scenes. Like, you could go with the fight scene in the weird flesh planet. That whole situation was weird. I really liked the way they misled the one girl who was supposed to be the receptionist, the Uruk character. I just like the whole bit about that. That was so wonderful. I could go with that, but I like them attacking when they take the ship, and they it splits up and they go into three different ships. The new one, I forget what the new name of the new ship is. It's another singer's name, but anyway, actor, singer. What is it?
Is it Bowie?
It might be Bowie. Yeah, let's just say it is. I like it when it splits up, and they have this plan to attack, and it's I was just so charged for that. It was just so wonderful, right? And that's the part where Drax they're trying to tell the kids to get away from the wall, and they're getting so frustrated, and then Drax goes up there and like, all that's wrapped up into it. So that whole, I guess, rescue escape scene, I was really into it, and the way they brought in the nowhere to it, and that, you know, and the whole, how that whole played together. And it was like, oh man, it's like the stakes are high, you know, they get all, you know, I'm thinking everybody's going to die. And I wasn't sure, you know, it was like, oh my gosh. And then, you know, yeah, I just, that whole scene just had me like excited for the movie. I was just like, yeah, it was just like, it was great.
Oh man, that just reminded me of another emotional moment with Yondu
Oh yeah,
appearing to Kraglin.
when Kraglin sees him. Yeah.
Although, was I the only person that was thinking of Pee-wee's Big Adventure when and all the animals and the one girl gets attacked?
No, I wasn't thinking that. Well, I was thinking of something, but
I know for some reason I was thinking about Pee-wee's Big Adventure when he's trying to save all the animals from the.
I love that scene though. It was so wonderful. I thought we were just doing the higher life forms. I mean, it was.
There's so many great parts in this.
I did like Kraglin's moment when he, you know, when it came down to it, he finally figured out how to do the sonic knife.
Oh
thing.
yeah, you don't. It's not your head. You have to use your heart, son.
Exactly.
Although the production design on this, especially when they're on the Earth 2 and they're in the people's house and they have like Sears portrait pictures.
It's amazing.
The animal people. Whoever did the production design, chef's kiss. That sort of 70s.
It's kind of sad that they basically all died, the entire planet.
Well, but then at the same time, when they're driving, they just see all of them like crimes.
I know. Like, that was hilarious.
So much humor in this.
And their faces, they were so like, what's going on? Yeah, good movie. Good movie. It's Marvel's has got the Marvels. The next movie, I guess it's November. Is it coming? I forget when it's coming.
I think it's November.
That one has a lot to live up to now. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough.
I don't have high hopes.
And then we'll get not Secret Wars. We'll get Secret Invasion. Secret Invasion.
Loki season 2 was coming first.
Is it? Is it Loki 2 or Secret Invasion?
Oh, they might have delayed Loki season 2 because of real world incidents.
Real world problems. Yeah. All right. Well, there you go. That's our extra long review of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Let us know what you thought of it down below. There are so many things that we could have talked about and topics that, you know, even controversial ones with animal. If you're an animal lover, there are some topics in here that might rub you the wrong way. Just warnings, like Chris.
Be aware. I've had people that alert some of my friends, like my friend Amanda, who's a big animal lover. Like, you might want to.
I know some people that are not going to watch this movie because of that. They wouldn't even, you know, they're not even going to watch like Cocaine Bear because of that. You know, that's a little more extreme, but you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
All right, SLATTMAN Christopher, thank you for joining me. This was a lot of fun.
To translate Groot, I love you guys.
That was so great. It was. Finally got to hear, and it was so Vin Diesel too. It sounded just like him, right?
Love you guys.
Well, of course it did. But,
yeah, you know, I will say that the effect was so good because as I was going out of the theater, people around were just like, "I'm so happy that we can finally understand Groot." Like we, the audience, and it's just like, no one was just like, "He's finally speaking English." No, it's we can finally understand him.
Yep. All right. Well, let's say goodnight.
Good night.
Good night.